Right now is Tyler Goodspeed, former acting chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, and Tomas Philipson, also a former acting chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. Gentlemen, great to see you again. Thank you for being here. Tom, first to you, once again, I mean, this has been repeated several times, I believe incorrectly, by the administration. First, they said the tax cuts cost American people $2 trillion. And now they're saying it's going to cost another $3 trillion if it's extended. But take a look, if you can. We put together a listing of the federal receipts from tax income, and it just keeps going up from 2017, which is the year that the tax cuts kicked in, all the way up to 2023. They're still benefiting. I mean, even though it's the Biden administration, they're still benefiting from the Trump tax cuts. Every year it goes up. It's like, where's Waldo? I keep looking for that $2 trillion loss, and I can't find it.
Well, I think we actually wrote a report before the tax reform was instituted, predicting what turned out to exactly to be the case, which is what you're referring to here, that this would be kind of a Laffer curve effect of lowering the taxes, leading to a tax rate, leading to more tax revenue. But I mean, it's kind of laughable with the Biden administration. They've been responsible for the two largest deficits in a non-crisis economy. We had larger deficits in the financial crisis as a share of GDP, and also during the first year of COVID. There was not a crisis in 21 and 22, but we have the largest deficit in non-crisis history under Biden. So him going out and saying that he's the guy to solve the debt problem is a little bit misleading, to say the least. And then on top of it, CBO came out the same day telling us that essentially it's going to go up 22 trillion from the debt that actually the public holds, which is a little bit different than the quoted figures. So the $3 trillion increase, which is wrong, even if it was true, would be about 13% of the growth in the debt of the next 10 years.
But Tyler, I think they should be embracing the Trump tax code because it allows them to keep pulling in the revenues. I mean, they are beneficiaries of the Trump tax cuts, right?
They're absolutely beneficiaries of the Trump tax cut. The Trump tax cuts were expected to increase the productive potential of the U.S. economy by over 3%. And that generates additional revenue. We actually estimated at the Council of Economic Advisors that the average household, the typical household would experience real income gains of $4,000 as a result of the 2017 tax law. And that means higher revenue from personal income tax rates that the federal government gets to collect. And we were starting to see that. In fact, in 2019, in 1 year alone, real median household income increased by more in 1 year than during 8 years under President Obama. So I think that there were a lot of dynamic revenue feedback effects coming from the dynamic growth effects of the 2017 tax law, and that was filtering through into higher revenues.
Yeah. And by the way, as Larry's always pointed out, the disparity between the richest and the poor shrank. So exactly what they were talking about income disparity was going in the right direction under the Trump administration. So even those goals were being fixed by the Trump tax code. And Tom, now you have this threat, although it's hard to imagine how it could be passed with a Republican House, but this threat of a wealth tax where everybody's gains in their stocks over the years will be taxed, even if they don't sell their stocks. I mean, what is that going to do, for example, if it was passed? What would that do to 401ks that are so reliant on income from stocks?
Yeah, I mean, the wealth tax is not new. We actually have a wealth tax on the largest component of most people's wealth, which is housing, the property tax, essentially. Anyone who has an assessment increase on their house have basically been taxed on unrealized capital gains. What's different here, what's true there for property taxes, is that it's localities that compete. So they're very low. They're a couple of percent, right? So you can always move. It's mobile. But with capital, same thing. Capital is much more mobile than housing, but now it's a federal law that essentially, so this will unequivocally, I don't think it's going to pass anytime soon, but if it actually was instituted, it would be a dramatic force towards incentives to go abroad with the capital, even move abroad for rich people. But some of these people that are really rich, it would make a lot of sense to get out. And therefore, the tax revenue you lose on corporate income is probably going to dominate what you gain on this.
Well, and Tyler, again, I think of the folks with 401ks. You don't have to be rich to have a 401k. There are a lot of people in the middle class who have 401ks that are heavily weighted in stocks. I mean, how would that be? How would you assess taxes on them from year by year on the rise in their stock portfolio, even if they haven't assessed, even if they haven't dipped into their 401ks yet?
Well, and that's sort of that's sort of the easier way to levy a proposed wealth tax is on those sorts of liquid assets. What's much more difficult is when there are illiquid or difficult to trade assets, and you're going to be levying a wealth tax on that on an accrual basis. I think it just doesn't make sense technically. More generally, I think we have seen this administration really tax capital investment. And this year in particular, we're going to see a big increase in taxation of corporate investment. So we see that with the corporate minimum book tax. We see that with the excise tax on share repurchases. Share repurchases are how capital is reallocated in this economy. Plus, there's a 30% haircut on interest deductibility for corporate tax liability. That is a lot more costly when you have high interest rates like we have because of as a result of the Biden inflation. And in addition, the Biden administration has allowed several key provisions of the 2017 tax law to start to expire. Most notably is the provision that allows for full expensing of new investment in machinery and equipment.
Which has been critical to a lot of small businesses in America. I mean, that really is going to hurt the small businesses more than anything. And again, Tom, final word, but the fact is that so many middle Americans are going to be hurt by these so-called wealth taxes. It's not tax on the wealthy. It's a tax on anybody that's holding stocks. And right now, what is it? It's about 50% of Americans who are holding stocks.
Yeah, no, people hold stocks in their pensions, and they're going to take a hit of this. I mean, anything, that's what's so troublesome with going after capital so much, because a lot of people save in their pensions, but also more importantly, a lot of people get employed by people who employ capital. So I think it's a really misguided view of the world that this is sort of like a zero-sum gain when there's mutual gains from having investment.
And so much for not taxing those people making under $400,000. Forget, that's out the window if any of this tax stuff comes through. Tom and Tyler, great to see you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.